Yeah, let's throw Greg into the mix.
Yes.
Greg, let's throw you into the mix, man. I'll make it happen, whether it's tomorrow or not.
You won't need to pay for me tomorrow because I won't be back in time for lunch. But it sounds like fun.
Another day. Okay, yeah. Okay. Listen, BYU was one shot away from beating this team in Provo. If Zach Seljaas makes that baseline jumper, the rhetoric is entirely different. Now the Cougars are back in McEwen Pavilion, where they are 1-5 in league play over the last 6. What is the key to BYU beating St. Mary's tonight, other than obviously scoring more points?
Well, I think it really comes down to getting enough from everybody else beyond Yoli Childs and Elijah Bryant. And the USD game was the kind of game you'd want to have against St. Mary's or any team, that kind of balance. Yoli and Eli, their scoring was down a bit. They combined for 27 points, but the rest of the team scored 57 points, or rather 47 points. And that's certainly enough to get the job done. And I think if BYU can have that kind of balance, they're going to be in good shape against St. Mary's. In the first game back in Provo, Landale and Nar, let's say their big two, combined for 43 points. The rest of the team scored 31. BYU's big two, Yo and Eli, had 45. The rest of the team had only 19. And so, again, just a little more balance, I think, is what BYU would need tonight.
Does TJ Haas swing things potentially for BYU in that regard?
Well, he's certainly pacing in the right direction. When they played the first time, he was in the midst of 4 straight games under 10 points. And you look at how TJ is playing lately. His last 3 games, his numbers are shooting in the high 40s or the 50s or the 70s, if you will. And he's he's in a double-figure scoring run right now. And so the way that both he and Jashir Hardnett are playing together at the same time is a positive sign. And again, it lends to more balance than BYU would have had the first time against St. Mary's when Jashir made 1 field goal and TJ made 3. And now they're both playing at a higher level. And Yoli and Eli are still the same 2 guys, they were. And so that there are more guys coming to the table right now is a very positive thing for BYU, and I think it's the kind of thing you need to have against St. Mary's.
What type of matchup do you expect from Jock Landale and Yoli Childs tonight? Because the first go-around was an all-star display from both of them.
Yeah, they kind of canceled each other out. There's only a 2-point differential between the two of them, 31 points and 29 points. That's why I say it kind of came down to who else is going to help you or hurt you, as the case was. And for St. Mary's, Nar had a modest 12, but then there was balanced scoring, 4 or 5 guys scoring between 5 and 10 points. And after Yo and Eli, there was really not a lot else going on for BYU. And so not that you're simply going to say we're going to give, Landale his 30, but that said, you almost have to, dedicate yourself to a particular approach and then hope that you're good enough elsewhere, to make a difference, because nobody is really, really stopping Jock Landale. In WCC play, he's got 3 30-point games. He's been under 20 only twice, and on those nights, he still had double-doubles, 13 and 17, 19 and 10. And so, Jock is the National Player of the Year for a lot of good reasons, and I don't think anybody takes him away. Clearly, no one takes him away. But the kind of game St. Mary's was playing at BYU was trending to be the kind of game BYU would win. They didn't go nuts from 3 until late, and that was important. But it was a game where they turned it over 15 times. You turn St. Mary's over 15 times, you're doing a heck of a job defensively. And, in fact, it was the best defense St. Mary's has seen this year. BYU held St. Mary's to their lowest offensive efficiency number of the year, and BYU did a lot of things you want to make St. Mary's do or not be able to do. BYU shot 15 free throws. It's actually above average for a St. Mary's opponent. So BYU did a lot of good things in that game, yet they were outshot in the first half. They were outshot in the second half. They were outshot in overtime. They were out-rebounded. They were outscored on second-chance points 9-1. There were some things that needed to go BYU's way that didn't. That said, a lot of positive things were accomplished. And, again, they had them to a tie game in the closing seconds and a shot to win it. What more would you want?
There are only 3 individuals that can stop Jock Landale, and they're dressed like zebras. If Jock Landale gets in foul trouble, that would be a tremendous thing for BYU, because Jock Landale played 44 minutes. He only sat out a minute of that first game. Now, I don't know, Greg, that BYU needs to be like, okay, we've got to get him in foul trouble. That would totally be a different identity thing for BYU. But for him to go 13 of 15, you just have to avoid that in some way. So what does BYU even attempt to do in slowing him down?
No one's really done it yet. So I don't know that the formula is there, because I mean you could simply dedicate 2 defenders to him every time he touches it, but then you're going to leave out the guys that you know are good enough shooters to make you pay. Again, it was a cancellation. Yoli's 29 took away Jock's 31 for the most part. And so, St. Mary's had to deal with Yoli Childs, and then they're wondering, what do we do to stop that guy? He had 29 and 10 against us. But it is, the senior trio for St. Mary's, they played 43, 44, and 45 minutes. Okay, and it wasn't that Jock wasn't, I mean, it's true that Jock wasn't in foul trouble. It doesn't mean he wasn't fouling. It's that they weren't calling him. And then they need to have officials call what are obvious fouls against Jock Landale. That would help a lot. But those 3 guys are the guys that St. Mary's turns to at the beginning of the game, at the end of the game, to carry them through. You look at their last, you look at the game against BYU. They trailed at halftime, came back to win. They were down 6 points late, 5 minutes to go, came back to win. These last 2 games they had against Gonzaga and Pacific, trailed at halftime, trailed late, came back to win. Those 3 guys, Nar, Hermanson, and Landale, have been doing this enough repetitions over the many years for Randy Bennett to feel the ultimate confidence in them to make the right plays and execute down the stretch. You'd like to have, not that it has to happen this way, but you'd like to be able to push that lead. BYU never did get it, I don't think, beyond 8 in Provo. And I think there were a couple of occasions that really could have maybe put St. Mary's a little more on their heels if they got that thing to 10 or 12. It never really happened. And that would be a nice way to do it. Not that it's the only way to do it. But it would be nice to see BYU have a little more comfort. But when you play in Moraga, that's not necessarily the top of the menu. You look at the games BYU's played against St. Mary's in Moraga since they joined the WCC. They're 1-5. The 1 win was by 3 points. The 5 losses are by an average of 10 points. 3 of the 6 games have been decided by 11 or more. 3 of them by 7 or fewer. So BYU has won a close game in Moraga. But of the 14 games BYU's played against the Gales all time since they joined the WCC, 10 have been decided by double digits. 3 in BYU's favor, 7 in St. Mary's favor. And so, the more comfortable margins are more the rule than the exception right now.
Greg Wrubell, the voice of the Cougars, with us on BYU Sports Nation. Greg, the game earlier this year was an anomaly in the Dave Rose era, according to your A Stat That Matters.
Yeah, Dave Rose, his teams are great at closing out games. Over the years, Dave's 13th season now, BYU's a remarkable 301 wins, 10 losses, 301 and 10
wow.
when holding a lead with 5 minutes to go. That's pretty lock solid. That's 96.8% of the time. If BYU's up with 5 minutes to go, they're going to find a way to finish it out. And in Provo, they led by 6 with 5 minutes to go and did not win the game. But it's a rare thing that would happen. Less than once a year does a Dave Rose team lose a game when leading with 5 minutes to go. Again, they're all but automatic at closing it out. It didn't happen that night, and that's how good St. Mary's is, forcing BYU to do something it doesn't do very often, less than once a year, and that is lose a late lead.
Greg, what would a win tonight for BYU really mean?
Well, you're right back in the championship hunt. First and foremost, you are right back in the mix. St. Mary's coming off a 4-game road sweep, now playing back at home. To get them in their building, it's a season split. You're a game back. You're tied with the Zags more than likely, and you're right back in the hunt. And that's that's for the short term the most important component of this thing. If you don't win in St. Mary's, you're now 3 games back of the Gales, and they'll have 9 games to play. They'll have won. If they win tonight, they've won 15 in a row. What are the chances they go 6-3 and bring you back in it down the stretch? Not very high. So it's a massive game that way. You stay in the hunt, and that's what has to happen. And then beyond that, it's all about trying to construct a postseason portfolio. And BYU has remaining in its season before Selection Sunday 11, 12, or 13 games. Right? They have 10 more regular season, and then 1, 2, or 3 games in Vegas. So they have 11, 12, or 13 games left. Of these 11, 12, or 13 games, they're going to see St. Mary's or Gonzaga 3, 4, or 5 times. And so really, all of what BYU has to do to put itself where it wants to be on Selection Sunday is ahead of it. They have everything in front of them to get done. They do control a lot of what's going to happen to them on Selection Sunday here in these next few weeks. There's a lot of opportunity presented here in these next number of weeks starting tonight. I'm excited.
Greg, what is a cool thing about Canada?
Well, today on the St. Mary's campus, we're told, is Australia Day. St. Mary's, since the turn of the century, under Randy Bennett, has had 18 Australians on the roster. And they've got a bunch again this year, and they're honoring them tonight with Australia Day, which reminds us that the last time that St. Mary's staged an Aussie-themed party was on Matthew Dellavedova jersey retirement night, and BYU won that game. It's BYU's only win at McEwen Pavilion. So hopefully the precedent repeats itself that on an Aussie celebration day, BYU wins in Moraga. But it's about Canada. So let's bring it back around. So 18 Australians have played for St. Mary's since the turn of the century under Randy Bennett. So in that time, one Canadian has played for BYU, and that is Jimmy Balderson.
Yeah, Jimmy!
David Nixon's business partner.
We honor McGrath, Alberta native Jimmy Balderson, who to this day is in the top 20 in career three-point field goals made at BYU, in the top 15 in three-point attempts, and was not too far away from joining the 1,000-point club at BYU. So, Jimmy Balderson, we honor you on this kind of Canada Day on Australia Day.
Fantastic.
He goes by Jim now.
Jim.
He's so old.
Yeah, he sounds very professional.
He's always Jimmy to me.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you, Greg. He'll always be Jimmy. Great stuff, man. Enjoy the call tonight. We look forward to it, and let's beat the Gales.
I'm very excited. This is it's shaping up to be just an epic night, and I hope it turns out the way we all want it to, because it would mean a lot for this BYU basketball program, short-term and long-term. I'm pumped up. Terry Nashif will be with me courtside. Always great insight from Terry. Mark with me back on Saturday as BYU's back home to Pacific. So big weekend, big night. It's on BYU Radio. Tune in, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, Greg, we'll be listening starting at 10 Eastern. Take care, man.
Okay, bye-bye.